everyone, welcome to another episode of Trader Babes. My name is Erica, and today we are going to be discussing options trading with a true pro. Our guest today is market analyst and expert trader Danielle Shay. And for a proper introduction, I am going to give the floor to my co-host, Aria. And as a reminder, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and follow us on Twitter at Trader Babes. Aria, go ahead and do the honors.
Hi, Erica. I'm very excited to have Danielle. I've been trying to get her for a while. She's one of the more professional, successful female traders. And that's why we have this show. We want to empower women. So this is a special episode for us. And I think everybody's going to learn a ton. She is the vice president of options at Simpler Trading. And she teaches tons of classes and webinars. They're all so effective, the type of teaching she does. It's not just your regular classes or courses you take. She's always active. So I would really recommend everybody to check her out. And she's also a regular guest on many stock market, social media, CNBC, Fox, and just the list goes on. So we're very honored to have her.
Definitely. Let's bring her in and talk to her. Ready?
Yes.
Hi, Danielle. Thank you so much for being with us today. During your introduction, Aria told us a little bit about you, and I'd really like to first talk about your background a little bit.
Excellent.
We did research on you, and I listened to a YouTube video where you told a little bit about your story. And I have to tell you that I had goosebumps listening to it because it resonates on such a personal level with me about how you started trading after coming from Costa Rica as a single mom, and then you had to learn options trading. Could you tell us a little bit about that? And did you work at the same time while learning?
Of course. So it was pretty crazy. I was living in Costa Rica. I was teaching English. I worked at an international school. I was teaching 6th grade. And at that time, I was going to get married, fell in love, all that kind of thing. And I got pregnant with my son. And it turned out that my fiance was basically a complete scam artist. So pretty much everything he told me was a lie. So I ended up leaving him when my son was basically about 2 weeks old. So I moved back to the States. He wouldn't let me take anything with me. So I had a 2-week-old baby, and I actually had to move back in with my parents. And my dad is an investor. He's been a trader for a long time. And I needed, a job, something to do. And I was looking around teaching jobs in the States. I mean, trying to raise a child on a single mother teaching salary would have been very challenging. So my dad told me, hey, why don't you get into options trading? So at that time I was on maternity leave. Costa Rica, they give you 4 months fully paid maternity. So the first 4 months I was on maternity. And then after that, I basically lived off of very frugally my maternity pay for 9 months until I ended up getting a job. But yes, I did work until my son was about 2.5, 3. I was working while I was trading. And then at that point I quit to trade full time. And then after another maybe 1.5 years, 2 years later, I ended up coming to work at Simpler.
And that I can only imagine how scary that must have been, trying to make this new life on your own for you and your son. I know you mentioned that you quit your job to do trading full time and then worked at Simpler. What was kind of the moment where you said, okay, I'm gonna be okay. I can actually make a living trading. Like, was it a certain account balance that you got to, or did you just start to see consistency in your trading?
So, what's interesting is that it was actually the other way around, because I was working and I was trading because I was scared to not have a job, right? And only depend on trading. But the problem is when you're working, a lot of your trades go badly because can't manage them during the day. And at the time I had two different jobs. One of them, I was working for as a photographer for Zillow. That one was really casual. I could check my trades, had no problem managing my trades. But I had another job in a portrait studio where I couldn't check my trades for 5 hours at a time. And so I got to the point where I was doing all right, but I knew that I could do better if I didn't have the job. And it was the job that was standing in the way of my consistency. And so ultimately, I just had to say, you know what? I know that I can do this. And if I stop working and I focus on my trading, that's where it's going to get better. So that's ultimately what I did.
I'm so glad you made that decision.
It was crazy. It was, I mean, even just thinking back, and, I think normally most any parents would say, what are you thinking? But since my dad, he's been an options trader for 20 years. I mean, he saw me struggling, trying to go to work and drive back from work in traffic and everything else. And he's like, you really just need to focus on your trading. And so that's what I did.
It's incredible that you had such a belief in yourself, because as a parent, it's scary. I mean, I'm a single mom of two girls, so I can only imagine how that feeling. Cause I mean, you don't have your fallback really.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of like taking that big leap of faith. And it personally is just such an inspiration to talk to you, because you've done it. It's like, she's there. I'm walking in her shoes.
Her motto is, if I can do it, you can do it. You tell us.
Well, the reason why I use that as my motto, if I can do it, you can do it, is because, I mean, I wasn't really a likely person to start trading options. I hate math, even to this day, when I'm doing the trading room and got to add and subtract and figure out percentages. I'm like, God. But you know what I'm really good at is languages. And so, in college,
that's Erica.
In college, I studied law. And so, that's kind of its own language in and of itself. I speak fluent Spanish. I'm really good at patterns. And so when I say to people, because most people think you need to be some kind of like math genius to trade, and I have found that is not the case whatsoever. So I always like to tell people, hey, if you can figure out patterns, the platform is going to do the math for you. So
actually, I think sometimes it can hurt trading, having that brain of being overly analytical, and because it's not what it's about. Trading is more about patterns, big picture. So it's good not to be
not to overanalyze.
Yes.
That's
and
true.
So about I was also very touched by you went to school for human rights. You got a law degree. When did that happen?
So I have an undergrad in law, so I can't be a full lawyer. Basically, what I did was I was doing my undergrad in international law and human rights. I really wanted to go to the Peace Corps, and I wanted to be a human rights lawyer. So I got my undergrad, and after that I thought, I'm going to take a break before I go to law school, and I'm going to teach abroad because I really want to get into the Peace Corps. I want to do something where I'm giving back. And that was where I got derailed, because I went to Costa Rica, and of course, I was young, I fell in love, and was like,
everything happens for a reason.
Right?
You were an inspiration to Erica. You had a rough, and you're going to be an inspiration to a lot of female traders, because we do have our own struggles that men don't. And so thank you. And this speaks a lot of volume on your behalf, always doing humanitarian things, going to school for it, going to Costa Rica, Peace Corps. You don't see that too often. So that's lovely.
Yes, I have
And
my Simpler Serves t-shirt on right now. This is I'm on the Simpler Trading, Simpler Serves committee, where we do different humanitarian, volunteer events every month. This month we're doing something for foster kids, actually. So
Oh, that's amazing.
yeah.
gave me
Yes.
another goosebump.
Yeah. So trading kind of in a way helped you to further your humanitarian work then, especially with Simpler Trading, right?
Yeah, because it's one of those things where it's really funny because when I was growing up, I never wanted to make a lot of money. I just wanted to do good. And that's why I wanted to be a teacher. And I wanted to be, like a human rights lawyer. Those people don't make a lot of money, right? And so when my dad first got me into trading, I was kind of like, this isn't what I'm about. I'm not trying to go be some, big shot, or I'm not trying to make a lot of money, but I'm in this position where now I have to, because now I have a child that's dependent on me and only me. And so in the beginning, I actually really I didn't want to make a lot of money, which is the funniest part. I just wanted to support my son. And now it's kind of to the point where I've gone full circle, because it's like, well, now that I'm doing really well, I can help other people in a different way. I may not be on the, living on the beach teaching English for $2 an hour, but I can help people in other ways because of the career path that I've now taken.
Mm-hmm. And that's amazing that you've chosen to further that side of you. And I wish that more traders would do it, because there is a lot of success to be had here. And it's good to definitely share it with those less fortunate. And I know you started touching on Simpler Trading a little bit. So could you just tell us about your role as VP of Options? What is it that you do, and how does that coincide with your teaching?
So I work at Simpler Trading, and I basically share what I'm doing with others. So, before I was just kind of trading at home by myself. And that was great. But then I met John Carter, who is the CEO and founder of Simpler Trading. And he actually he's brilliant, but he has a very analytical mind. And he said, hey, what I could really use is someone like you who's good at explaining concepts to people in a really simple way so that they can understand. He said, because I'm all the way up here and I've been doing this for 30 years, and it's hard for me to reach the people who are trying to start. And you have recently, at this time, it was, I don't know, back in 2014, 2015. It's like, you've recently started and you can help the people who want to get off the ground. And so he hired me, and I started off teaching really just beginner option strategies, teaching people how options work and why you would do one strategy over another, and learning different patterns. And then basically over time, it's just kind of snowballed. And so now I teach a variety of different strategies that I have come up with. A lot of them are also kind of different tweaks of what I've learned from John, because I learned everything from him actually online. But basically what I do is, I let people walk the journey with me. When I have a good day, I have a great day. When I have a bad day, I'm like, hey guys, look, I lost money on this trade. I lost money on this trade. This is why. And I just open my trading journey up for all sorts of views and criticism and love. So
Yeah, you'll get a lot of both of that, especially now after retail trading has kind of exploded within the past few years. There's a lot of criticism, a lot of great support too, but yeah, you can get eaten alive out there on the internet.
Yes.
And let's talk a little bit more about your options trading then, because that's our main topic that we want to discuss with you. Aria and I both are trading options. She's done it a lot longer than I have. I'm still a newbie, like 7 months or so. So Aria, do you want to go ahead with the first question?
Yeah, I have been trading for 6 years, but it has only been a year that I have started to be consistently profitable. And trading options is very risky. And I just listened to one of your talks on how to grow a small account for option traders, I think there are a lot of people out there interested to hear more about that from somebody who does it day in and out. If you could give us a little bit of tip and of how you think people should go about it, and yeah, anything for us.
One of my favorite sayings that John actually told me when I was first learning was, he said, first you lose money, then you learn how to stop losing money. This is a very, very critical component of the whole thing. And then that's when you can learn how to make money. In the beginning, everyone's going to lose money. That's just a number one fact, because you don't know what you're doing, right? You have to practice, you have to learn patterns, you have to learn strategies, you have to learn when to get in and out. And so I think number one, when people are new, the number one mistake they make is they're not realistic. And they think, oh, well, I can just, walk right into this career and I'm going to immediately be churning out thousands of dollars. Well, that's not the case at all. You have to have a buffer zone where it takes you, a while to learn those things. And everyone always wants to know, well, how long does it take? Everybody's different. It depends on a lot of different factors. But once you can start to figure out, okay, what am I doing wrong? And more importantly, what I should focus on, that's when you can really start making some progress. So, I think being realistic in the beginning is really helpful. The second part is just, you really need to have like 3 different base patterns that you use that are your setups. And the hardest part about options trading is that different setups are going to work in different market conditions. So like right now, the market has been a little bit crazy back and forth. There hasn't really been too much going on directionally. So right now I'm focusing on earnings setups. However, when the market's really strong, going in a direction, that's when I'm focusing on directional setups. So for anyone who's starting out and wanting to, get to the point where you're growing accounts, you need to, number one, be realistic in the beginning. Number two, after, as you're trading, you need to recognize and be honest with yourself, what's working, what's not working. And you need to focus on having those 3 different patterns that work in different market conditions, because the conditions are always going to be changing and different. And over time, what you'll find is that you're going to find those patterns that work the best for you. And that's what you really focus on and hone in on. And that's when you can really start doing well.
And when you're starting out with a small account, do you focus in on a specific like contract price? Do you like to look for options under a certain price point? Because you're trying to make that small account, you're trying to stretch it as far as you can, right? So is there any like specific contract price that you like to stay within? And also what expirations do you prefer to have, monthlies, weeklies?
So typically with a small account, I'm usually trading contracts that are $5 or less. It's going to depend, what is small account, right? So when you're looking at percentage size, I really don't like to go over 5% of an account per position. Typically, my trades are going to be between, I would say, $1 and $10 per contract. I think one mistake that a lot of people make is they think, oh, well, I have a small account, so I need to make, 2 huge trades, when it's actually the other way around. If you have a small account, you need to make, 5 small trades and have that incrementally add up. The thing that I've found to be the most helpful with small accounts is trading multi-leg strategies, because when you use a spread or when you use a butterfly, you can get a 1 to 2 risk reward or a 1 to 4 risk reward. If you're just buying a long call, you're risking that full debit, and usually the max upside is going to be like 25, 50% more if you're lucky. So the risk reward just isn't as good. But as far as expiration date is concerned, if I'm trading earnings, it's overnight. But I do typically like to give my trades like 2 to 3 weeks to work. I really don't like doing anything super short dated, because all it takes is one news event and, the market gaps down 400 points the next day. And then there you go.
Mm-hmm. And it's much harder once that premium has been knocked down for it to get back up. That's for sure.
Yes.
And do you utilize specific Greeks when finding the strike price that you're looking to trade? Do you typically choose in the money contracts, out of the money? What's your criteria on that?
I mainly use Delta the most. So I'll choose between a Delta 50 and a Delta 70. So in the money or right at the money, just kind of depending. I don't usually do out of the money options because those are pretty low probability. I'll do them in a unique like short squeeze situation. But for the most part, I'm not going to use those.
Okay.
That was my question. You answered. It's a lot safer to do in the money and a further date for some of the beginners out there who are buying options weekly and just out of the money, and it's just gonna be a slow bleed.
Yes.
You're not gonna hit home run. The probability of that happening is very low. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yes, I think that's one thing that is really hard for a lot of new traders too, is because, they go on like Wall Street bets and it's like, hey guys, I'm going to buy all these out of the money options. And it's like, oh, it makes me so sad to see that because people think, oh, well, I have a small account, so I'm going to buy the cheap ones. And they're not really thinking about the fact that they're so cheap because they're so low probability. You have like a 1 in 10, 2 in 10 shot of them working. And so, if you have a small account, you think it makes sense to buy things that are cheap, but it actually makes more sense to buy things that are cheap that are high probability, which would be in the money options turned into a spread.
And do you utilize options to hedge your positions as well? And if you do, what's your preferred method to hedge your stock holdings?
Honestly, I really do not hedge very often. The reason for that is because the market has just been so strong throughout my entire career trading. If I was always hedged, the amount of money that I would lose, spending on hedges. There's a nice saying in Wall Street, like the amount of money people spend trying to prevent a correction is worse than you would ever lose in the actual correction itself. And so I will hedge in a rare circumstance where I really feel like, okay, the market is so extended and it's got to go back. And then I'll do like a cheap bearish butterfly. But for the most part, when the market's pulling back, I'm just adding more size. This has been a buy the dip market for a long time, and that's been the best strategy for me.
Okay.
If we do have a big correction, what do you think your strategy will be?
Well, I mean, it just kind of depends because if it's I have to look at options and stocks a little bit different. So if there's a big correction in stocks, I would absolutely add more stocks. I would hold the current stocks that I have and I would add more. But it's hard to say because if a correction turns into a bear market, that's a different situation. If you get like a, 10, 15% correction, that's a buying opportunity. Once you're down 30% and the market has completely rolled over and shifted, that might be a different situation. As far as options is concerned, because those are way more, in and out. If you do get a deeper correction, that would be when I would switch to doing bearish option strategies, but I would most likely still hold my stock holdings.
Yeah, so for someone who is interested to hold long-term stocks that they love, would selling a cash secure put, for example, be one of your strategies to grab those cheap shares and trying to help us prep for what is going to happen. If it happens, it's good to have those already prepared.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, selling puts to pick up shares works. Also if the market's correcting and you have enough shares of stock, you could also sell covered calls as well. But I mean, for me, mainly with my stock strategy is what I do is I add stocks on a rotating basis into my portfolio. So, for example, like every week or every other week, I'm basically looking to add more shares of stock into my portfolio. I'm looking for really strong stocks, technical and fundamental stocks. that have a really good macro backing. And when they pull back, that's when I want to add more because, now they're on sale. So basically I have my list of my favorite stocks and I just add more when they're on sale.
And when you're doing a swing options trade, I wanted to, because I know we touched on hedging, but I guess on the opposite side of it, if it's turning against you, at what point do you cut it? Is there like a specific stop loss that you use on the premium, like a percentage that it's down that you'll finally cut it, or what do you look for?
So it just depends. I don't really have like a hard and fast rule because there's just so many different situations. For example, if a position is under $5, I'm usually going to risk the full amount. So
Okay.
I'm not going to worry about trying to get a 50% stop loss. But the thing is that if you're in a situation where it is clearly not working at all because there's been a major news event, major gap down, something like that, and it's down 40%, well, then, yeah, I'm going to cut it because I can see that the setup isn't working anymore, even though I went into it thinking I was going to risk the whole thing. If it's more than $5, generally I do look for a 50% stop. But honestly, it just goes back to the pattern. Is the pattern broken down? Yes or no?
Okay.
And that's very important for the newer traders to know. When you do trade small, you give yourself that leeway where you can risk it all type of thing. So and let the options work out for you, hopefully. So, one or two contracts, don't go big.
Yeah.
It's much better than having to take a stop loss 50% and then just, kicking yourself for missing the run. Just instead go small. If you think, based on the daily chart, this is ready to go. Don't get stopped out at like 50%. Just go small and ride it, much better.
Yes.
Well, that's where risk management comes in, right? Which is so important in any size account, but especially when you're working with a small account, because too many mistakes and you're done, you're out. Another thing that was in the video that I saw is you were talking about the 5-star method when assessing a trade. Different elements that make that up that you assess a star rating to. Could you tell us a little bit about that, what you look for?
So basically, when I first started trading, what I did was I learned from a variety of different mentors, and I realized that they each had their own setup, their own core pattern. And so what I wanted to do was say, all right, well, this works for you, this works for you, this works for you. What if I combine all of that into kind of like the master pattern? Because I want as much confluence as possible. So basically, every star is one setup in and of itself. And then if you add, all right, well, actually now this chart has 2 different components or 3 different components or 4 different components all at the same time, that gets you a higher star rating. So for example, one of those is going to be having a trending chart. When you're trading with a trend, it's always going to be better than trading without a trend. Another one would be the squeeze. So the squeeze is my favorite directional setup. You've got a consolidation setup that's likely going to break out. If you use the squeeze and combined with the trend, it's going to work a lot better than if you just use a squeeze by itself or a trend by itself. Then you also have Fibonacci. So I'm a really big believer in technical analysis, and I love Fibonacci analysis. There's people who just use Fibonacci that they don't use a trend or they don't use a squeeze. Well, if you now have the trend plus a squeeze plus Fibonacci, now you have something even stronger. The next piece of that is going to be a pullback. Always going to do better buying directionally if you buy on a pullback. So when you add those 4 things, now you have something that's even stronger. The last piece of that is really going to be kind of the fundamental piece. I kind of switch in and out what the fifth star is, but it's basically like the icing on the top of the cake. So usually what it is it's going to be some sort of fundamental backing. Like, for example, Microsoft is a really strong fundamental stock. They have fantastic earnings, quarter over quarter, year over year growth. So that would be a 5th star. A 5th star can also be a different setup. Like, for example, maybe it has a short squeeze that's ongoing. So it's really just kind of like the icing on the top of the cake that takes the setup from a good technical setup to something even better.
Okay. And when you're talking about entering in consolidation, how do you avoid the time decay eating away at your options contracts? Do you utilize different time frames to know when your consolidation period is going to end? How do you calculate that and prevent time decay?
So you don't ever know when it's going to end. There are absolutely times where it consolidates for longer than I'm expecting, and I do experience that time decay. For the most part, when you're in consolidation, number one, it depends on the market condition. If the market's a regular like pullback buy market, then I'm generally looking for consolidation, a daily squeeze to last maybe 2 weeks or so. And so I'm buying options 4 weeks out. However, in a market like right now, where the market has just not really been doing too much for quite a while, then you have to go out even further, like to July or even the beginning of August. So it is hard when you're looking at, potential time decay versus consolidation. The best defense against that is to start off by buying in the money options. If you buy at the money or out of the money options, you're just completely hosed when it comes to time decay if the consolidation doesn't break out. So as a general rule, number one, start with buying in the money options. Number two, you want to go out like twice as much as you expect. So if you think the consolidation will last a week, go out 2-3 weeks.
Okay. And how are you, I know you said no one really knows, but how are you estimating that consolidation period? Are you looking at like a pattern on a specific time frame chart, or how are you calculating how long you expect the move to take?
So I look at what you would call the personality of the chart. So different charts have different personalities. Just think of it as like a kid, right? Like one is not going to react the same way as the other to staying up
If
late
only.
at bedtime, right?
If only.
So you just have to look back at the chart and look at the past times that the chart has seen consolidation, and you just make an average. So if you look at Microsoft, for example, and say, hey, the last 8 times it had a daily squeeze, on average, that squeeze was in consolidation for between 8 and 10 days. That tells me that likely this time it'll be around that time frame.
Okay.
So you're just looking at past patterns. And of course, you don't know if this time it'll be different. But what you want to do is look at that same chart, because a squeeze on Netflix might not be the same as a squeeze on Microsoft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because every stock behaves differently. That's an excellent point, definitely. And there's been a lot of fake outs in this market too. You'll think that something's breaking out and then it just falls through.
Well, and that goes back to the indexes. So in my analysis, I'm always starting with the indexes every single day, and looking at, all right, is there momentum here in the indexes? Are we seeing any type of directional pattern? And that really gives you a hint as far as, are these individual stocks going to move or not?
And do you look at the sector ETFs as well and by industry to kind of get a gauge of what sectors are moving that day?
Definitely. So I look at the individual sectors, usually like to focus on the ones that are, higher beta weighted. They move a little bit more. You really need that for options trading. And then you also definitely want to look at individual industry groups. So for example, like semiconductors, or one of my really good trades lately has been cybersecurity. So there's news every day of somebody else getting hacked, and the cybersecurity stocks have been trading really well. So just paying attention to what's going on in the world around you, and then taking that and putting it into some stock ideas makes sense.
Interesting. And do you suffer with discipline as a professional trader at all?
It's a
very important part of being successful, and it's one of the hardest. And what do you do to overcome that?
It's definitely hard. I mean, especially for me, like it was a lot easier when I just worked at home with my son, and now it's like every alert that I post, I'm sending it out to hundreds, if not thousands of people. And so there's a whole different element when not only it's my own money, but then I have other people looking to me and saying, oh, well, is that a good idea? Is it not a good idea? When do I get in? When do I get out? So for me, the best thing is being able to take vacations and practicing self-care. Like I started getting massages. I go to yoga. Next week, I'm completely going to be flat and I'm going to the lake with my sister, and I'm not going to look at charts and I'm not going to do anything because, there's just some times where you just need breaks from the market, because if you're constantly just in the market all the time and you're in this mentality where like, I have to make money today, I have to make money today, that is where things go badly. So you want to be moving along with the waves of the market instead of,
Trying to
going like
force
this.
it.
Yeah. So especially the past couple of weeks, I mean, my stocks have been doing great, but options, it's just been, the market really hasn't been moving. I've been trading earnings, which has been pretty good for the most part, but the directional trades just aren't there. And so that tells me it's a great time to take vacations. Summertime trade can tend to be really quiet anyway. And there's nothing wrong with stepping back and taking a vacation for a couple days and then seeing what fresh setups are out there.
Well, the last time you went on a vacation to Hawaii on your ride, we had a market crash. So is this a sign?
It was absolutely awful. And John and I always joke about that because I can never take vacation because I have positions on and I have people who, want to know about the positions that are on. And so one major thing that I've learned in doing this is that it's absolutely critical to your success to take vacation. And it was that Hawaii trip that I learned, because I thought, oh, it'll be fine. I'll just trade for a couple hours like I normally do, and I'll be on the beach and it'll be great. And I went to Hawaii with a fully locked and loaded portfolio. And I was flying from Austin to Hawaii. It's like a 12-hour shebang, right? And I'm over the ocean with no Wi-Fi and the market's literally crashing. And I was
Oh
like,
my
oh,
God.
great, awesome. I lost like $6,000, not to mention my, $5,000 plane tickets. And I was like, oh yeah, this is amazing. This is the most expensive flight I've ever taken. And that was a major lesson for me, because I didn't want to get out all of my positions because I don't want to let people down. I don't want to say, hey guys, I'm sorry, I'm going to Hawaii and I'm not going to trade this week. But instead of doing that, which would have been far better,
there's the pros and cons, it seems, to be a leader and teach these classes. Going back to discipline, does that help when you are in charge of some other people looking up to you? Does that help you, like, just knowing you have to be disciplined and not do crazy things?
Remember to follow your rules.
I mean, I would say that it can be a blessing and it can be a curse. I mean, absolutely, for sure. Anytime I have a trade and I know I'm going to post it, it's like I got to look over every chart, take the screenshots, make sure I entered it right. Whereas if I was just sitting here by myself doing it, would I make sure I dotted my I's and crossed my T's? Maybe not.
That extra level of accountability. Yeah.
But it can also work the other way too, because I mean, for example, like if a trade is down slightly and people are freaking out and they're like, why is it down? And then I might, close it a little bit too early. So it can work both ways. But I think that overall, definitely being in front of the camera, having my trades out there, yes, it does make me more disciplined, and I have to be disciplined. But that's also why I've learned how important it is to be on when you're on and off when you're off, because it's not helpful to anyone to be like constantly trading and posting alerts all the time just because people are like, I want trades, when it's not a good time to post trades, or you just need to have that reset. And especially right now, we're basically going into new highs, or we have gone into new highs. We have like weak June seasonality. Summertime can be really choppy. We're in the middle of 2 earnings seasons. It's a perfect time to take a break. And people get like, oh, well, I want to make money this week. And it's like, you don't need to make money every single week. And if you're just throwing trades out there because you're bored, that is lacking discipline.
You're setting a really great example, actually, by taking those breaks and being able to say, okay, there's nothing out there. I'm not going to force anything. It's like that saying, sometimes the best trade is no trade at all, or the best position is cash. We see those different sayings going around Twitter all the time.
Yeah, and it's really important. And I mean, that has always been hard for me because I want to trade and I love trading and I like trading and the people want trades. But that Hawaii trip that to me was like the final nail in the coffin where I was like, nope, I am taking my vacations and I'm not going to feel bad about it. And I'm going to, be flat for 4 days and it's going to be better when I come back. So people should do that too, because even though you're not in the same, position as me, where you're posting trades to all these people, it's still very, very good for you as a trader to take a step back from the market for a few days.
Hopefully, some of these trading conferences start to come back, then I'll have a very good excuse to go. Business and fun.
Yes.
That's where I met Danielle, and these conferences are great. I actually recommend it to passionate traders because you do get to meet a lot of successful people. You build relationships. I made a ton of friends that I still keep in touch with on the trip. And, just you meet humble, successful people that you'd be surprised how far they'll go out to help you out. So if that opportunity comes, hopefully more conferences come, definitely give it a shot and check it out.
Well, if they have a chance to host them in Florida, then they'll definitely be on, because it has been so busy here with people traveling. And normally it's a slow time, but oh my goodness, everyone is out and about. The airports are super packed. So I'm pretty sure they'll come back soon.
Good.
Yes, I think they will. That's awesome. You're in Florida?
I live in South Florida. So
nice.
Yeah, but it's the place where if you live here, you want to escape for the summer.
Yeah.
So trading that works. That works. Just go escape to somewhere cooler.
Yes. Well, that's why I wanted to get into trading to begin with, was because I really don't do well in like an office type environment where I have to be there from 9 to 5, and I've just never been my jam. And that's what I love about trading, is that you can do it anywhere, so.
Yeah, and there's a certain freedom of it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Arya. Sorry, I interrupted you.
You're a very active speaker. You attend a lot of conferences. So that's where you get in your vacations, or you used to. I remember when I spoke to you, I was so excited when I saw you. I was like, oh, female trader, and she's a professional. Like, I was so excited I came to you. But you do it all. You trade, you travel for work.
She's pioneering the way for women, which is amazing. Are you seeing more and more female traders now, like entering the market? Are you seeing us start to come up? Yeah.
Yes.
Did you experience any of the adversity, like when going in with the guys, like, especially you've been on TV, like, on CNBC, Fox Business, like, did you feel a little bit like you had to prove yourself coming in with the blonde hair, the blue eyes? Like, did you feel that at all? Or did you think like anyone was kind of like, what does she know what she's talking about?
Oh my gosh, you don't even know how hard it's been.
We want to hear.
So first of all, I will say that it has never been that way with the men at Simpler Trading. John, Henry, like, they're absolutely the most amazing people in the entire planet. And they have never for 1 second ever made me feel like, I'm not a good trader or I'm less than them or anything else. They are absolutely amazing. However, what has been incredibly hard for me is going anywhere else. Like any conference I go to, any TV set that I go on, no one ever expects me to be a speaker. No one ever expects me to be the person that's on camera. I could tell you so many stories. Like, for example, one time I went into one of the major media networks, into the office to check in. So you have to, you know, go in New York and you go into their studio and you say, "Hey, I'm Danielle Shay. I'm here for the show." The secretary automatically thought that I was like someone setting up a conference room. She's like, "Oh yeah, there's your conference room. You can go in there and you can set it up to get ready for the producers." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" And I was like, "No, I'm on the show." And they were like, "What?" I was like, "Yes, I'm a guest on the show, like on camera. I'm not setting up a conference room." And they were like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I mean, there was one time I was speaking at a major conference and the person that was supposed to be miking me up, like, of course, they always think it's my husband that is the trader. Always, every time. Which is so funny because I bring him around with me because we love to go to Vegas and all that kind of stuff. And they always assume that I'm just like the kept wife.
The kept wife.
Like, every time. And I was so mad. I was going and I was teaching a class, like a 4-hour class. And the person who was supposed to be setting it up was like, wasn't going to let me into the room because they were like, "Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. This is for paid attendees only." And I was like, "Yes, I know. I'm the speaker." And they were like, So
oh my goodness.
My picture was on the door.
Wow.
What are you doing?
Oh my goodness.
No,
I'm glad we touched on this because it's definitely a problem.
And I've tried to tell John, I've told him, I was like, "You have no idea what it's like for me. I'm, you know, it's not the same thing as you going out and speaking and doing all these types of things." And he's like, "Well, just keep trucking, just keep trucking." And I don't know, it's been very challenging, especially like people always want to ask me really in-depth, like private questions, especially like when it comes to men. Like I was speaking at a conference in Vegas and this guy came up to me at the bar after and he's like, "So how much money did you make last year?" And I was like, "Would you go up to one of the men traders actually and ask them that?"
Exactly.
Like, would you? And if I even told you, would it be enough? Or would you say, "Oh, sorry, that's not enough for me"?
Yeah, he'd probably want you to prove it. You know, like show him your account balance.
Yeah. I mean, I get those types of questions all the time. And I've actually found that from women, it can be even worse. And like, that's why I was so excited to come on your guys' show because I'm such a huge fan of like women supporting other women. And, you know, yes, there have been people who have been total, I don't know if I can swear in here, but.
Oh yeah, you can. I've done it. Go ahead.
there have been definitely people who they would never in 5 million years expect a young blonde woman to be, you know, the expert that's speaking or on TV or whatever. But there's also been a lot of really awesome people. And like, you know, John and Henry are two of the best because they have been the ones that have encouraged me through it all. And like, it has been hard, but you know, I just keep going and I try to share the good and the bad, and that's what I'm here for. So
it's true though. We do need to all, you know, stick together, especially like I feel like there's more females in trading now more than ever. And you can see it, especially with how social trading has become with the Twitter and the Discords and everything, where you experience that really toxic environment from some guys. And it makes a lot of women kind of shy away. I'm different. Like I'll post their nasty messages on Twitter for the world to see. But it's nice to be able to come together and say, yes, we are actually real. We are actually doing this professionally. We're taking it seriously. No, this isn't just a break from OnlyFans. I cannot even tell you how many times we have been asked that or told that we're going to be back on OnlyFans. Like, I didn't make an account yet. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I love that you're pioneering the way for female traders and really giving us a face. To say, we're really here and we're not going anywhere, and we can do it too, and probably better.
That's so amazing that you make that joke, because I tell my husband all the time. Like, I had some troll over the internet who was like filling up my Twitter feed telling me like, oh, I can't believe you charge money for your classes. You should give those away for free. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, do you get paid when you go to work, or do they just whip you when you get there and say, oh, just keep going. Don't worry. Like, because you do a good job, you should do it all for free, And this guy was just like hammering at me all weekend. And I was telling my husband, because I get so tired of it, and it's like, I'm trying to do good. I'm trying to teach people what I know, And I tell him, I'm like, hey, if I get too stressed out eventually and I just can't deal with this anymore, at least I can just start an OnlyFans account. Totally kidding.
Maybe. I know. No, it's incredible though, because these girls can make some money on there. I've heard stories of like these women will all they do is feet pics. Yeah. And they're making like thousands of dollars a month.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. I heard you can make whisper videos now. That's like a new thing. You can make like whisper meditation videos.
and we're the dumb ones. Yeah. Who's paying for that?
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
There might be a lot of money into trading naked.
Yeah. Right. Right?
That's what's next. There we go.
The naked trader.
For sure.
But ladies, let us take over this industry. I'm over it. Yes, everybody, hopefully the ladies that are listening, or the men who are listening, empower more women in this field. And tell your female friends about trading, and we might actually be better traders than men sometimes. At least we make great teammates because we think differently, and two brains are better than one. So there's a lot of room for growth here, and we need you.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like, and I hate to, because there's a lot of awesome, like really cool men out there.
Definitely. Yeah. There's definitely good supporters.
But the ones who are sitting in their mom's basement writing Twitter comments to us, man, those guys are not nice. So.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, the stock market doesn't care if we are female, if we're male, if we have, 10 heads and 3 legs, like it doesn't care. So it's just, it bothers these people more than anything. And the stock market doesn't care at all. So that's the beauty of it too.
That's right.
And one last thing before we let you go. It's been such a pleasure having you on, by the way. Thank you so much. If I could just ask you 2 questions. The first being, when you were first starting, was there any mistake that you kept repeating, or did you have that aha moment of where you find where things started to really click for you? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
I mean, I would say the biggest mistake in the beginning was just taking money off the table way too quickly, like either for a loss or for a profit. The only way that I really made progress in that arena was by taking screenshots and going back to my trades and saying, hey, I got out of this ticker when it was at $100, and look at that, the week after it went to 120. Or getting out too soon, because I would say, oh my gosh, it's down 25%, I don't want to lose money, and then it immediately would turn around and make money. So I think going back and looking at screenshots, taking screenshots when you get in and out is important, but then also taking another one like a week or 2 later to see what you missed really helps you kind of get through that. I still have times where I'll take something off too early. But for the most part, the habit of doing that is really going to help you stay into trades longer.
Thank you
Do
so
you
much. That's a really
document?
good tip.
Do you document the screenshots and journal it?
So that is one thing I could definitely do better at. I have not been keeping a, written journal of every single trade. The main reason why I don't is just because of time, right? Which is a very, very bad excuse, of course, when I tell everyone else to do it. But the thing is because me in particular, like because I have trade alert services, I have a spreadsheet there, everything is documented. I have all of my screenshots. They're all sent out with all the different trades. So I have them in folders and they're organized by date and by ticker, but I don't have them in a format where they're like, today is June 15th and this is what I did. So if that makes sense. So I do have all the screenshots. I do need to do better myself of actually putting them in a more like comprehensible document, I guess.
But at least you still have that log, like you said,
Yeah.
so you can go back and look for reference.
Yeah, exactly.
And what is the, like if you could give a singular piece of advice to beginner traders, anyone who's struggling and kind of questioning if they can really do this, is there any good piece of advice you could give them?
I would tell them that everybody struggles. I mean, that's just part of it. You can't get to a point where you're happy with what you're doing without getting through the struggle. So I think just recognizing that it's normal, it's really helpful, but also recognizing that like it's a lifelong learning adventure. You don't really have a point where you say, oh, on August 15th, 2017, where it was the day where I became successful. Like, it's not really like that. Trading is a fluid thing. You're going to have times where, like last year, I had surgery and, my trading was terrible for that 3-week time frame. Like, I went to Hawaii and then I had surgery, and then it was like, just because I'm doing everything that I'm doing doesn't mean that I don't still have like a bad time frame like that. And so you have to recognize that it's a journey and you're always working on yourself. You're always working on your trading. You're always working on yourself. And you learn lessons like that where you say, hey, guess what? Next time I go on an airplane, I'm not going to have a fully loaded position, fully loaded portfolio. And then you move forward and you continue on with your upwards trajectory. But really it is a journey, and embracing that is going to be the best part.
And just when you think you know everything, then, GME and AMC come along and make you question everything you thought you knew.
Yes. Yes.
So we never stop learning.
That's right.
Go ahead, Arya.
Yeah, I think it's important for the viewers to know that please don't give up, but you have to keep learning. Don't keep doing the same things over and over. Nothing's going to change if you don't change anything. So yeah, don't give up, but keep learning.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
One of my favorite sayings is Einstein's. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Yes.
So,
Problem.
Yeah, you gotta make changes, and that's a hard thing to do, is to go back and look and really assess yourself, and say what you did wrong, having to relive those moments, but it's a critical part of it, like you said, and learning from your mistakes and what not to do, and not to go to Hawaii with a bunch of positions open. Don't do that.
Not a good
That's the
idea.
lesson we've learned.
Well, it's like you think, oh, it's just, I'm only going to be over the ocean for 6 hours. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, wait, there's a global pandemic and the market is actually crashing.
And I did it by puts.
Puts, and we're fully long, fully. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, no. So a good lesson is
that is not the worst thing that could have happened crash-wise on a plane.
Right.
And
there's always worse.
Always the worst. So yeah, I mean, just take every day at a time, work on just what you said. Don't do the same things over and over again. If you recognize things aren't working, you have to you have to figure out, okay, what have I been doing wrong, and how can I change that so that I can do better, and continually work on yourself. And so just work on identifying pain points, but also work on identifying what is working so you can do more of it.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming on and speaking with us today. It was such a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
I hope we can have you back again sometime.
Yeah, that would be great. I love your show. It was awesome.
Thank you so much. It was so great to meet you.
Yeah, I had you in mind from the beginning when Erica and I started, because we are doing this to empower women. So you were the first person that came to mind. And since then, you know, I've been messaging you, and we'd love to see more of you if you have the time.
Awesome.
Yeah, maybe we can do a segment on single mothers option strategies. How to trade with your baby right there.
Yes. Well, that's what we do.
That's a good
Yeah,
one.
right?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk again soon.
Okay, great. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Erica.
Want more Trader Babes? Subscribe now and connect with us on social media for exclusive content and access you won't find anywhere else. And we'll see you right here on the next unforgettable episode of Trader Babes.